President Biden has released a plan to reform Social Security next year in 2024. Congressional Republicans, both in the House and the Senate, have each released their own Social Security plans to fix the system next year. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to explain each plan, and then you decide who has the best plan to reform Social Security. But here's one thing everybody can agree on. Social Security is in trouble. It cannot remain the same because there's too much money coming out of the system than is being paid into the system. So something must be done. And the plans that are being put forward are very different. So I am going to explain them, and then you are going to be the judge of who has the best plan to save Social Security. So I'm going to talk about the president's 4-part plan, and then the Senate Republican plan, which essentially wants to have Social Security voted on every year. And then I'm going to talk about the House plan, which the main core of it is to raise the Social Security retirement age. So let's get right into it. But before I do anything, if you are new to this channel, I want to urge you to hit the subscribe button, because the entire purpose of this channel is to bring you the latest news updates about anything in and out of Congress that may affect your Social Security and disability benefits. So let's jump right in. So what is the president's plan about? Before we get into that, let's talk about the cost. President Biden's plan is going to cost $273 billion to implement. So why is this even necessary? Why are we talking about Social Security reform to begin with? Well, there's a simple explanation for that. The first thing is that Social Security is vital for retirees. 9 out of 10 people rely on it. Over the years, it has lifted millions of seniors out of poverty who are facing financial challenges. Without Social Security, a lot of seniors, retirees, will be living in poverty, because for 4 out of 10 seniors, Social Security is their only source of income. So you can imagine, if it wasn't around, a lot of those seniors will be living in poverty. And then the biggest issue is that because of a demographic shift where the baby boomer generations are retiring in record numbers, there is a $22 trillion shortfall in Social Security funding. And essentially the reason is that there are more retirees being paid benefits than there are employees working and paying into the system. So that is what is causing the shortfall. So if things stay the same, in 2035, there's going to be a crisis with Social Security benefits, because there's not going to be enough money to pay all the benefits that must be paid. So the president has a 4-part plan to fix this. The first part of the plan is increase the payroll taxes on higher income earners. The second part is to change the inflation index that is used to calculate the cost of living adjustment for Social Security. The third is to increase the special minimum benefit, which is the lowest benefit anybody on Social Security can receive. And then the last one is to raise the primary insurance amount, which is a baseline upon which Social Security benefits are then calculated based on how long you worked, how much you made. But there is a base, and he wants to increase that base for people who are age 78 to 82. So let's get into the details of the president's plan so that you can get a good idea of what he's proposing. So the first part of the plan is to increase payroll taxes. Now, currently, everybody making up to $160,200, pays Social Security taxes. Is 12.4%. So any income up to $160,200, you're going to be charged Social Security taxes 12.5%. It used to be that if you made $400,000 or more, on top of what you pay up to $160,000 in taxes, you also pay more Social Security taxes on income $400,000 and above. Well, that was eliminated. The president wants to bring that back. On top of that, once that is implemented, once people making $400,000 or more are asked to pay more Social Security taxes, there's going to be what we call the donut hole, which is the income between the $160,200 and the $400,000. So the idea is that eventually that donut hole will shrink and will disappear. And how is that going to happen? It's because there's something called the National Average Wage Index. And each year, as they increase the National Average Wage Index, they're hoping that this donut hole will eventually disappear which will subject all future income earners to the Social Security payroll tax. So that's the first part of the plan. As I mentioned, one of the reasons why Social Security is experiencing this issue is that there are more people getting benefits than are being paid into the system. And so to address that gap, there are a few options you have. You have to cut benefits, or you have to raise taxes, or you have to means test the program, which is a whole different thing that I can explain in another video, which essentially means that people who make more money receive less benefit in the future. So the president's plan falls into the three ways you can solve the Social Security crisis: increase taxes, reduce benefits or increase the retirement age, or means test the program. So that's the first part of his plan. The second part is what I think is a very, very critical issue that has frustrated a lot of current beneficiaries, that is even going to get worse for future beneficiaries. So if you're on Social Security benefits, there's something called the cost of living adjustment. It's a yearly increase that happens if the cost of living for that year has gone up. Well, that increase is tied to an inflation index that a lot of people don't think is realistic for seniors. And that inflation index is called the Consumer Price Index for urban wage earners and clerical workers. Well, urban wage earners and clerical workers are not the people that are on Social Security. So why are we using an inflation index for people that are actually not the people whose benefits are being looked at? So what the CPIW does is that it looks at goods and services that affect urban wage earners and clerical workers. And then it compares the third quarter price averages for those goods and services to the previous third quarter, the previous year's third quarter. If prices have gone up this year compared to last year, then the cost of living will be adjusted. The problem is that using this CPIW does not look at specific costs that affect seniors or that greatly affect seniors, like prescription drugs, medical care, etc. So what is being proposed by the president is to change it from CPIW to CPIE, Consumer Price Index for the Elderly, which is going to track spending habits of household with individuals aged 62 and above, so that the COLA will reflect an accurate cost of living adjustment for seniors, because it's going to look at specific prices of goods and services that directly impact people that are 65, 62 years old and above. So that is the second part of his plan. The third part is to increase the special minimum benefit. I think this is the most important part of the president's plan, because currently, regardless of how much you make, once you make or work enough to get the credits to qualify for Social Security, you are guaranteed a minimum benefit. So if you didn't make a lot of money in your 30 years of working, you are guaranteed a special minimum benefit to make sure that you can at least have a decent life. Well, that special minimum benefit is really low. So the president is proposing to increase that benefit to 125% of the federal poverty level. Each year, the federal government releases what it calls the federal poverty level, that shows what the government considers as poverty. That data is important because it is used to qualify a lot of people for government benefits and other things. So he wants to propose to change the special minimum benefit for Social Security benefit from what it is now to 125% of the federal poverty level. Why is that important? Well, the current federal minimum benefit, the special minimum benefit, is $1,033. If you multiply that by 12, anybody that is receiving that amount currently, means that if you're on Social Security benefit and all you're getting is the special minimum benefit, you're receiving $12,402 a year. That is very low. A lot of seniors, that's all they get. And in today's inflationary environment and how much prices have gone up for a lot of things, clothing, food, transportation, healthcare, they've gone up and stayed up. So making $12,402 and $2 in Social Security benefits is not really a lot to live off of. So the president's plan will boost that to 125% of the federal poverty level. Currently, in 2023, according to the federal government, the poverty level is $14,580 for an individual. And as you saw previously, the special minimum benefit is $12,402 for 2023. It's going to go up by $33 in 2024 to $12,798 a year. That is not a big jump. So the plan would increase it, if passed, will increase it to $18,225 for an individual. What that means is that if you just receive the special minimum benefit, you're going to get a 47% increase in your Social Security benefit if the president's plan is enacted. So that's the third part of his plan. And then the fourth part of his plan, which I think is really new and takes into consideration what's happening with seniors that are between age 78 years and 82 years, is that the data is showing that during this age, seniors in that category incur a lot of costs related to later in life healthcare expenses. So what the president is trying to do is boost their benefit by 5% over that cumulative period to help account for the increase in healthcare costs that these seniors will experience during that age. So that is the president's plan. It's going to cost $273 billion according to some estimates. It's going to shift from a consumer price index from CPI W to CPIE. It's going to reinstate the payroll tax for high income earners, and is going to focus on addressing the economic challenges that seniors face by boosting benefits, raising taxes on high income earners, and adjusting the cost of living that they get every year to make sure that it reflects the specific costs that seniors face every year. So that is the president's plan. You decide. Well, before you do that, let's look at what congressional Republicans in the House and Senate are proposing. This is all information you can verify online for yourself. So, the Senate, led by Senator Rick Scott from Florida, put a plan to reform Social Security. And the details of his plan are as follows. It's really to reauthorize Social Security annually, which means that Congress will have a say in how much Social Security beneficiaries get in benefits. And Republicans believe this is necessary to reduce the $31 trillion in debt and balance the budget going forward. Now, Rick Scott has doubled down on his plan to fix Social Security, and his idea is that he wants to make sure that the government is living within its means. And Social Security and Medicare and Medicaid are a huge part of government spending. And a lot of you will say, well, we paid into that system. Well, that's true. But the reality is also that more people are getting benefits than are paying into it. So something must be done. And the Senator's plan is to bring Social Security up for a vote every year. And it's designed such that every federal legislation will be sunset in 5 years. And after 5 years, if nothing is done, that legislation just dies. So his idea is that after 5 years, if Congress wants to do something, then every year, that legislation will have to be voted on after 5 years, every single year. So Social Security potentially will fall under that. As I mentioned, the debt is high, the deficit is high. Social Security the trust fund is expected to have serious issues in 2035. And so the only way to do it is increase revenue or decrease benefits, or a mix of both. And so President Biden has threatened to veto this plan that is being put forward by Senator Rick Scott on behalf of the Senate. And as I mentioned, his plan is the American Rescue Plan. and it will make sure that Social Security is voted on by Congress every year. And what happens, you know what happens when Congress votes on something. They don't just vote on anything. People are going to want something out of it. And so it puts Social Security benefits into the fight about budget and deficit, which means that potentially it could be cut. So that is a plan that is being put forward by Ray Scott. You can Google it for yourself and find out the details of it. But the summary of it is that it sunset legislation after 5 years. And then beyond that, it has to be voted on every year. As I mentioned, Republicans in the House also presented their own plan. So let's look at that. So the House plan that was put forward was analyzed by an independent party, which is the Center for Retirement Research at Boston College. They looked at the plan put forward by the House Republicans by the Republican Study Committee, which released its fiscal year 2024 budget calling for significant cuts to Social Security. 175 of the 222 Republicans in the House are part of this Republican Study Committee. So a majority of these members of the House Republican caucus support this plan. So what is this plan about? Well, let's get into the detail. The first thing you need to know is that they are saying that they want Social Security to be cut starting in 2030. Why is that important? Why is 2030 important? Because they're saying that by law, in 2035, when Social Security Trust Fund is depleted, people who are on Social Security are only going to get 77% of benefits. It's just the way it's going to be. There's not going to be enough money to pay you your full 100% of benefits that you deserve. You're going to get 77%. So they are trying to get ahead of that by trying to preserve the trust fund and not let it deplete all the way to zero. They want to begin cutting benefits in 2030. Now, what specifically does that mean? Well, they want to raise the retirement age to 69. Well, you may say, haven't we just been through this already? Well, you're right. The retirement age was just recently raised to 67 over a 5-year period. It went from 66 and gradually was increased to 67 recently. And what they want to do is raise it again to 69. Well, I told you earlier, there are only 3 ways to resolve this Social Security problem. 1 is to raise taxes. 2 is to raise the retirement age or cut benefits. And 3 is to means test the program, which means that people who make more money get less benefits regardless of how much you've paid into the system. Well, they are proposing to use one of the tools, which is to increase the retirement age and also slow down the cost of living adjustment. Remember, the president's plan is to make sure that the cost of living adjustment is reflected in the spending habits of seniors. Well, the Republicans in the House want to slow down the cost of living adjustment so that you don't receive, the average cost of living adjustment for Social Security over the last 20 years is 2.6%. They want it to even be lower to preserve the trust fund. As I mentioned, the retirement age just went up. It was 66 for people between 1943 and 1954, and it's been going up slowly by 2 months until people who were born in 1960 or later, your full retirement age at which point you will get your full benefit has been increased recently to 67 years. Well, this proposal pushes that further from 67 by 2 more years to 69 in an effort to help save the Social Security Trust Fund. So their key point is that they want to cut benefits for high income earners, medium and high income earners. The problem with this is that according to the research by the Retirement Center at Boston College that I just shared with you, they are pushing back on the House Republican definition of who a high income earner is and who a medium income earner is. According to the Republican plan, if you're a medium income worker your benefit is going to drop by 77%. But they're using $58,700 as medium income earner. I don't know where they're getting their numbers from, but medium income earner is not $58,700 in a lot of parts of this country. So, but that's what they're using. That's why the Center for Retirement Research is pushing back on that. And they consider high income earners as $94,000, and they will see benefits drop to 40% of the current law. That's a big drop. So what the Center for Retirement Research is saying is that basically they are going to take benefits from the average people, because $58,000 and $94,000 is not a lot of money, and that is where they want to make the cuts. So this is the House Republican plan to save Social Security, and the New Republic did a whole study about that plan and showed that the cuts are going to be deep, and it's going to affect Medicare, and it's going to affect Social Security benefits. And for Medicare, it's going to even take benefits away from disabled Americans who have to wait longer. And their plan is going to be turned into what they call premium support system. So that is the plan by the president, Senate Republicans, and House Republicans. As I mentioned, this is all publicly available information that you can find out for yourself. I wanted to summarize it and present it to you for you to make a decision on who you think has the best plan. So I want to hear from you in the comment section below. What are your thoughts about Social Security? How do you think Social Security should be fixed? What are your ideas on how you think Social Security can be extended into the long term so that it will be there for generations to come? Comment in the comment section below. If you are new to this channel, please hit the subscribe button so that you'll be the first to know when we release new videos about anything that will affect your Social Security or disability benefits. So until I see you in the next video, thank you for watching.